more.
It's funny, people were never sure if we were going to waste resources or if we were doing something kind of vaguely immoral by putting in too much resources and you were supposed to spread it across lots of bets rather than like conviction on one. Most of the world still does not understand the value of like a fairly extreme level of conviction on one bet. And so we said, okay, we have this evidence, we believe in this thing. We're gonna, at a time when like the normal thing was we're gonna spread against this bet and that bet and that bet.
You're a definite optimist.
You're a definite optimist. And I think across like many of the successful YC startups, you see a version of that again and again.
Yeah, that sounds right. When the world gives you sort of pushback and the pushback doesn't make sense to you, you should do it anyway.
Totally. One of the many things that I'm very grateful about getting exposure to from the world of startups is how many times you see that again and again and again. And I think before YC, I really had this deep belief that somewhere in the world, there were adults in charge, adults in the room, and they knew what was going on, and someone had all the answers. And, you know, if someone was pushing back on you, they probably knew what was going on. And the degree to which I now understand that, you know, to pick up the earlier phrase, you can just do stuff. You can just try stuff. No one has all the answers. There are no like adults in the room that are going to magically tell you exactly what to do. And you just kind of have to like iterate quickly and find your way. That was like a big unlock in life for me to understand. There is a difference between being high conviction just for the sake of it. And if you're wrong and you don't adapt and you don't try to be like truth seeking, it still is really not that effective. The thing that we tried to do was really just believe whatever the results told us and really kind of try to go do the thing in front of us. And there were a lot of things that we were high conviction and wrong on. But as soon as we realized we were wrong, we tried to like fully embrace it. Conviction is great until the moment you have data one way or the other. And there are a lot of people who hold on it past the moment of data.
So it's iterative. It's not just they're wrong and I'm right. You have to go show your work.
But there is a long moment where you have to be willing to operate without data. And at that point, you do have to just sort of run on conviction.
Yeah. It sounds like there's a focusing aspect there too. Like you had to make a choice and that choice had better, you didn't have infinite choices. And so, the prioritization itself was an exercise that made it much more likely for you to succeed.
I wish I could go tell you like, oh, we knew exactly what was going to happen. And it was, we had this idea for language models from the beginning and, we kind of went right to this. But obviously the story of OpenAI is that we did a lot of things that helped us develop some scientific understanding, but we're not on the short path. If we knew then what we know now, we could have speedrun this whole thing to like an incredible degree. It doesn't work that way. You don't get to be right at every guess. And so we started off with a lot of assumptions, both about the direction of technology, but also what kind of company we were going to be and how we were going to be structured and how AGI was going to go and all of these things. And we have been like humbled and badly wrong many, many, many times. And one of our strengths is the ability to get punched in the face and get back up and keep going. This happens for scientific bets, for being willing to be wrong about a bunch of other things we thought about how the world was going to work and what the sort of shape of the product was going to be. Again, we had no idea, or I at least had no idea, maybe Alec Radford did. I had no idea that language models were going to be the thing. We started working on robots and agents playing video games and all these other things. Then a few years later, GPT-3 happened. That was not so obvious at the time.
Yeah. It sounded like there was a key insight around positive or negative sentiment around in GPT-1.
Even before GPT-1.
Oh, even before.
I think the paper was called The Unsupervised Sentiment Neuron. And I think Alec did it alone. By the way, Alec is this unbelievable outlier of a human. And so he did this incredible work, which was just looking at, he noticed there was one neuron that was flipping positive or negative sentiment as it was doing these generative Amazon reviews, I think. Other researchers might have hyped it up more or made a bigger deal out of it or whatever, but it was Alex, so it took people a while to, I think, fully internalize what a big deal it was. And he then did GPT-1 and somebody else scaled it up into GPT-2. But it was off of this insight that there was something amazing happening where, and at the time, unsupervised learning was just not really working. So he noticed this one really interesting property, which is there was a neuron that was flipping positive or negative with sentiment. And yeah, that led to the GPT series.